Sex toys are sex toys for a reason. They're tested and they're safe. If it doesn't have a base on it, it's probably not good to put it into an orifice. Hi, I'm Dr Mark Perera and I'm a GP with an interest in sexual health. And today I'm going to be answering questions from the Honesty Box. Why do you love being a GP? I love being a GP because it's the privilege that I get that people will share anything and everything with me. Sometimes they spill so much tea in my clinic room that it is shocking, but I love it and I feel so valued by doing that. Is it true that eating pineapple can make my semen taste different? The answer is yes, but it's marginal. So pineapple is obviously a sweet fruit and it can add an element of sweetness to semen. Things that are not so good are smoking and alcohol because they can cause dehydration and affect the chemistry within the semen. So yes, but it's a smaller effect than you probably think. What's the top 3 most common STDs you see in your day-to-day? Herpes, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. These are by far the commonest diagnosed. Everyone's heard of them, everyone worries about them. And they can all be treated relatively easily. Definitely gonorrhea, chlamydia, just a simple course of antibiotics. With the herpes, that is something that you do have for life. So that's something you can treat if there are symptoms. How do I tell my partner I have herpes? That is a great question, asked a lot from me. I would say the best way is to be open and honest and be aware that 1 in 6 people have herpes. So it's not something really rare and that they have to worry about. It's completely not going to affect quality of life long term. And honesty is the best policy, cheesy as that is. So take a private moment with them and just be honest. It is not the end of the world and there are medications to help if it comes up now and then. What is a simple fix in relation to sexual health that no one listens to? 1 word, lube. Lubricant is everyone's best friend. It makes sex so much more pleasurable. It allows things to slide a bit more easily. And so you don't have to worry about any kind of awkwardness. Sex obviously can be messy now and then anyway, so you're just enjoying that experience and not having to worry about friction. It will change your life. Guys come loads in porn. What's a normal amount to come? Yes, guys do come massive amounts in porn and often it is artificial. A normal amount is actually 2 to 5 ml. In human terms, that's like a teaspoonful. So don't expect, gushing. That's not normal. Actually, that could be unhealthy. So just go with what feels right and don't question it. If you are worried, speak to your doctor. I come as soon as I go in. How can I last longer? That is actually the medical term premature ejaculation. And it's quite common. It can often be just the way that your brain works, but there are things that you can do, such as there's a technique called squeeze and stop, where you can kind of pull out and squeeze and hold and just allow yourself a break. Other things you can do is masturbate before sex because the threshold then it's got lower. If it's really common and really affecting your life, speak to your doctor because there are numbing gels, there is therapy, and there is sometimes oral tablets that you can take as well if it's really affecting your quality of life. I can't keep it up. Any tips? Yes, common problem that people worry about. So, believe it or not, 90% of why someone can't keep it up is psychogenic rather than medical. So, have a look into kind of your lifestyle. If you are stressed, if you're not sleeping properly, if you're drinking too much, that could be one of the reasons. Have a look at those, address those. And if you're still really worried, see your doctor, because there are sometimes, erectile dysfunction can be about diabetes or heart disease. So it's important to rule that out as well. And if it's an agreed plan with your doctor, you might consider a medication for it, like Viagra, for example. But you don't ever want to go down that route first, because that often creates dependency in young men. Is it true Gen Z are having less sex? And if so, why is that? It's a great question. Multiple societal studies are showing that Gen Z are having less sex, and it's hard to put our finger on why. A lot of it is to do with stress, economic stress, housing stress, being able to have that environment to have sex and enjoy it. But there's also an element of understanding what you need. It's not going with the common trends, and it's deciding, am I ready for sex? Do I want to have sex? Do I have a really high libido right now that I have to go and do that? It's about understanding themselves, I think, a bit better. That's what I'd like to believe. How have porn trends affected real sex? That's a great question. In terms of porn, we have got body types that are very, very polarized. So you've got kind of a mix between kind of, in men, porn star, sports star kind of thing, hairless, muscular. It really sets kind of a benchmark which is unattainable. Similarly with the penis size, we know that porn actors are often selected because they might have certain size of appendages, breasts, penises, and this can really affect how we see ourselves when we have sex, because we maybe have this false premise that sex is going to be exactly like that. But don't forget, that experience of sex is sterilized. It is the polished product. It forgets the humanity and the fun kind of awkwardness as well that comes with having sex and enjoying it. So I would say it basically just can give a mirage, and it's important to realize that, otherwise you can be constantly disappointed. New afflictions that we're seeing a bit of is kind of the rough play. That's really more and more common in porn now, kind of being thrown around, choked, and accidental injuries can happen, be they muscular or more serious. And there is also a risk to life when you choke someone. So it's really important to understand that that is kind of choreographed in a studio and often can be mimicked rather than actually happening. So yeah, I really want people to think about that they don't have to do that, but they can experiment with it if they are consenting to it. What's the most easily treatable but stigmatized condition? I would probably say chlamydia. It is the infection that everyone knows, that they worry about, but it's easily treatable with antibiotics. And again, it's one of those ones that in women can actually be really silent. So it's really just important to get tested regularly every 3 months if you're very sexually active. The worst that can happen if you don't get treated for chlamydia would be, in a female, pelvic inflammatory disease. In both, you can have infertility, and you can also get kind of discharge and pain. It's not good. So get tested, get treated. There's no shame in it. What's the strangest thing someone has used as a sex toy? Oh, this one's a little bit dark. It's actually a Barbie doll. The Barbie doll was put up this person's rectum. Yeah, there was a lot of kind of background to why this person felt like that would give them pleasure. I think this is important because sex toys are sex toys for a reason. They're tested and they're safe. If it doesn't have a base on it, it's probably not good to put it into an orifice because it can easily and often does get stuck. But always seek help if you have an accident like this, because clinicians can help. I think that as a doctor, there is innate compassion. This person is struggling. I think they worry more about being judged than we would ever judge. I feel so much pressure to be like the men in porn. What should I do? I think you've really nailed some insight in that question, because there is a benchmark in porn that is not normal life. Humanity is a spectrum, and the people that might end up in porn are selected because of perhaps the way that their bodies look or how aggressive they can be on camera. And so try to realize that that is not real life. It is a polished product. Real people want connection and not choreography. So it's really important that you don't mistake pornography for reality. I think I'm addicted to porn. What should I do? The fact that you are open and articulate about you could be addicted is the first thing. Being honest with yourself is critical. Next is to try and take a break from it. Just like I would advise to an alcoholic, take breaks and try and extend that break from it. Speak to someone you trust. That could be a friend or a family member, but if you don't want to go that route, you can speak to a doctor and they can support you. Writing it down can sometimes be really helpful because then you're seeing it in black and white. But I think also maybe finding content where people talk about porn addiction, because this is not a new thing. This is increasing, but it's not new. There are people that have gone through what you're going through. And so find a frame of reference, and that might help you become more open and not feel the shame. How would you advise parents to approach talking to their kids about sex? That's a really interesting question because it varies for each family. I would say make the household a safe space. Make sure that no question is off the table because that's when we cause the stigma and the shame. Kids should be able to be curious and explore and ask their parents because that's the safest way and the best knowledge they're going to get. I think it's really important that kids feel safe. And so start at an age as well that the kid might be ready to understand. You know, talking about body parts and anatomy and consent from an early age is really important so no one takes advantage. But as the child grows, which only the parent can really follow, I would say allow that kind of bit more slack and test the waters and allow the child to test the waters as well. Safe space is key. What actually is blue balls? Blue balls is a common term used if you haven't had a sexual release in a while. In men, it's that kind of heavy, achy feeling if your semen hasn't been able to be released. Women sometimes use it as well, just as a phrase of, I'm sexually kind of frustrated. It's totally normal, it's not long lasting, and there's no harm from it, but it's a sign that you probably need a sexual release. Do you think sex education in the UK is good enough? So sadly, I don't think it is. I think we really need to have much more of a breadth on sexual education. I think we need to cover that porn is watched and it isn't the source of truth for sex education. But we have to acknowledge people are watching it from a young age. And so it's not about demonizing it. I also think it's important that we talk about LGBTQ+ identities because often that can be missed. And, you know, up to 10% of the population is queer or experimenting. And so it's important to not add morality to that conversation. And it's about having a safe space where nothing is off the table.
Remember, the clitoris isn't just this little bud. It's actually a much bigger organ. So the clitoris actually more looks like this. So the part that you see is just a little bit, but there is so much more of the clitoris that isn't seen.